I've seen so many young people when they're ready to start having children. A couple is ready to start having children, and you hear the future mom to be, I just want to have a baby. I just want to have a baby. Let me help you. Babies don't stay babies. Babies grow up. Babies become hard-headed middle school people. Babies become very curious high school students, and babies become young adults. And guess what? When they become young adults and they shift, you're still their parent. Wow, it can be tough when you are parenting young adults, because guess what? Now you still have to guide them even though you can no longer raise them. You still have to, in many cases, financially and emotionally rescue them, even though they don't listen to what you tell them. So there is an adjustment that has to take place. I grew up in the kind of family where you just did what elders told you to do. You were forever a kid when it came to your mom, your dad, your grandparents. You just did what they told you to do. That ain't working with these kids today. It does not work. And if you're going to keep an open, loving, functional relationship with your young adult, you're going to have to make some adjustments. But I'm the parent. I shouldn't have to. If you want to keep a loving, functional, open relationship with your young adult, you're going to have to make some adjustments. Let's talk about it. You all have conversations with each other, but you've got to make some adjustments, because you want to always be able to be there for your kids, and you always want your kids to be there for you. Make the adjustments. Why are so many people hurting so badly? Make the relationship more important than the issue. Do you add value to the person that you're connecting with? My name is Derek Triplett. This is Better Relationships. And guess what? It gets better from here. Welcome to Better Relationships. My name is Derek Triplett. One of life's great privileges is to be a parent. But when children grow older, things change. The rules change, the dynamics change, they change, and guess what? We as parents have to change as well. Parenting young adults can be difficult, but it is rewarding. But are you ready for the challenge? That's what we're going to talk about today. The challenges of parenting young adults. When you're finished raising them, now you have to guide them, and then guess what? They don't have to do what you say anymore, but they're still in your pocket for one reason or another. There is so much to talk about. We've got a great guest coming up. Stay right here. This is Better Relationships.
The best way to parent my adult son is allowing him to be himself and just being there when he needs me, serving as his advisor.
We were raised a lot of prayer. It took a lot of prayer. He was not perfect by a long shot. I spent a lot of time going back and forth to the schools, but one thing I did as a parent, and I saw that his father did the same thing, we supported him and his sister. That he was in sports, we supported that. He was in whatever, we supported that.
Welcome back to Better Relationships. Parenting young adults can be rewarding, but it's also challenging. That's what we want to talk about today. Today we've got as our guest a pastor, a coach, but more importantly, somebody who loves being a father. Welcome, Bishop W. O'Shea Granger, to the show.
Thank you so much, Bishop. I'm so delighted to be here.
Tell me about your family dynamics. You've got 3 boys?
Yes, these 3 boys. 3.
And what are their ages?
26, 25, 23.
26, 25, 23.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. So we'll do another show where we talk to Mrs. Granger.
I know, right?
But take me through the journey. I mean, they're not teenagers anymore.
Correct.
They're young men right now.
Yes.
But you are still very active in their lives. What's that like?
It is so crazy. Because we have such a unique relationship, and my boys and I are extraordinarily close.
Okay.
And I mean that not only figuratively, but I mean in the literal sense.
Okay.
Like, for example, my 26-year-old lived in Boynton, about 25 minutes away, and decided to move. So literally, if you leave my development,
Okay.
go around the curve, and the first entrance of the next apartment complex is where he moved.
That's where he moved.
And he did so on purpose, and there was no shame in his game. He said, "I did this so I could save on my food bill."
I'm coming back home to eat. I'm coming back home to eat. I'm
Yes,
grown.
yes.
I've got my own job.
Yes.
I'm taking care of myself.
Yes.
But I'm coming back home to eat.
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's for both mom and dad's cooking.
That absolutely, because I do probably 75% of the cooking.
Wow. Wow. So what's been the biggest change you had to make as a father, let's say from when your boys were high school age to now?
Watching their independence and,
Okay.
and experiencing their independence, because my boys have always been engaging, and they've always been active in the community and in church, of course.
Okay.
And so now watching each of them carve out a different path,
Okay.
because they had some things in common when they were growing up, when they were kids, little boys. Sports.
Sports.
All three of them participated in sports until high school.
Okay.
And one of them made the decision, the baby boy, made the decision to go into the arts instead of athletics. And I would say he made the most dramatic shift, because he went from the arts. Now he is in the Army.
Okay. So from athletics, and we tend to be
Yes,
alliterative,
yes.
from athletics
Absolutely.
to arts to the armed
Army.
forces.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Give me a tough day for a parent of a young adult.
You want me to give you the toughest day for
Give me
me
yours.
personally? The toughest day for me personally was the day that I received a phone call from my son. And he was informing me that he had been the victim of a violent crime. He was shot.
Wow.
And parenting children when they have traumas is one thing, but experiencing a day when there is virtual tragedy is a totally different
Right.
thing. And that single day it stands out in my mind as probably the most anxious day
Okay.
of my life.
How has he been since then? What is parenting him post-trauma, post-tragedy?
It's probably been just helping him to stay stable, and to just monitor, because as a parent, you're always concerned.
Right.
And so you're looking for all the clinical kinds of things
Right.
that you've been socialized to look for from a professional standpoint, but you can't divorce it from the parental standpoint. And watching how he has adjusted and has gotten to a healthy place, and it's not any lingering signs of trauma, post-traumatic stress, and none of those things. In fact, one of the great miracles that came out of that is that he recently became a dad.
Wow.
Yeah,
So from that to fatherhood,
from virtual death to
father.
becoming a dad.
how does him becoming a dad change you?
Man, let me tell you, my budget increased dramatically
They
because
still got to eat.
yeah, and not only he, but I mean, this little baby girl is just amazing, and so the dynamic of having a baby again
Right.
around in the house, because he lives with me.
Okay.
And so that's a dynamic, because hypothetically, you want them to get to a certain place, they move out,
Right.
and that has not taken place with him. He's still at home.
Well, what's interesting about millennials
Yes.
is being out of the house is not a statement of success or failure for them.
Correct.
It has nothing to do. We grew up and being on your own
Yes.
was a statement of adulthood.
Yes.
But they're being adults while under the roof of their parents. How does that work? The rules dynamic.
Sure.
Is it every man for themselves?
In some ways, but of course, there's still the common standards of the
Okay.
house. house rules don't change.
Right.
You know, you age, but house rules remain the same. And so it's a grown man, but he's having to retain conformity to the house rules.
Okay.
And you know, kids,
Yes.
young men, they push the envelope sometimes. But in essence, we make it work. And I think we made it work because of the will to make it work. Because I not only have him, I now have his girl and the baby in the house. I've lost 2 rooms.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that you are now a grandfather.
Yes.
With your son,
Yes.
the son's mother,
Yes.
and your granddaughter all under your roof.
Under the roof.
We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
We'll be right back with Better Relationships. Let's head back over to the Q&A corner. This is a question from Mason from Michigan. Wow, Mason from Michigan. I'm ready to have a baby. My wife is not ready yet. How do we bridge this gap? Well, Mason, you might not like what I'm about to say, but I'll say it anyway. First of all, Mason, you got to think about the fact that we don't have babies. We don't do that. We are a part of the process, but the shift, the change, the transformation in the woman's life is infinitely greater than what happens to us as men. And so I encourage that you and your wife would continue to talk, continue to pray, and get on the same page. Because what you don't want to happen is that such a gift, like a baby, would be a reason to cause a rift between husband and wife. So you got to get on the same page. And for anyone else who's watching Mason's question, these are the kinds of conversations you have to have prior to getting married. These are the kinds of conversations that you have to have so that you know going into the relationship how to plan out your life. But for Mason, for you, pray about it. You all will get on the same page, but at least respect the fact that the shift in your life is greater for her than it will be for you, and allow that to kind of assuage some of your difficult feelings. I hope that helps. Welcome back to Better Relationships. We're with Bishop W. O'Shea Granger talking about parenting young adults.
Yes.
And before we left, you kind of threw something out there that we got to get back to.
Okay.
That right now, in your homestead,
yes,
in your house,
in the domicile,
there is you, your wife, your son,
yes,
your son's significant other,
yes,
your granddaughter,
yes,
all living in the bishop's house.
Correct.
How y'all do that?
Well, it's evolving.
Okay.
It's probably been maybe 6 months or so, but I tell you, it's a very interesting dynamic because there's so many moving pieces.
Right.
One good thing is Taquisha can cook.
So she adds value.
She adds. She can cook. She cleans. She does laundry. She does a lot of things around the house.
Now let me ask this:
Sure.
You have boys.
Yes.
What if daughter comes home? If you had a daughter, what if daughter came home pregnant?
Yeah.
And male significant other,
Needed a
would it
place.
be the same? And would your wife deal with it the same?
I have no capacity to anticipate how she would handle it.
Okay. I will not speak for her.
That is a language that is far above my pay grade.
Okay.
But I will say this. One of the things that's been so interesting has been the evolution of how she's handled this.
Okay.
Because, you know, to know Katrina is to know an ultra, super, maximum conservative woman.
Absolutely.
And maybe I would even say old school.
Okay.
She's got an old soul. And this dynamic has caused her to make some significant adjustments.
Okay.
And I would even say to grow in a significant way. And I remember a message one of my good friends preached, when it hits home.
When it hits home.
And when it hits home, the dynamics completely change. And I'll tell you, I remember one day sitting, watching her and Taquisha with Taquisha's mom on the phone, and they were literally planning a baby shower. And I'm sitting there saying, "Is this
It's happening,
Katrina?"
right.
I mean, and I'm actually watching this in real time.
Wow.
And it was blowing my mind because it's now a dynamic that I recognize a little bit better because it's from the son that we almost lost.
Wow.
And so the baby has become the evidence of God's miraculous hand.
It's the bonus blessing.
It is, indeed, indeed, indeed. And she is so delightful.
When you speak of her,
Yeah.
you get the doting grandfather
I
look on
do.
your face.
I do.
You do.
I do.
Let me ask, you mentioned the spiritual dynamics.
Yes.
How have you managed that?
Simple. I managed it as a dad
Okay.
and not as a bishop.
Okay.
You know, it's your child, and most of us desire for all of our children to make the best choices, what we would consider to be the proper choices, but sometimes they're not ideal.
Right.
And this is a set of circumstances that probably was not ideal, but it's real.
One of the things we say on Better Relationships is make the relationship more important than the issue. And that's what
Absolutely.
you've done.
Absolutely.
That's what you've done. Man, I appreciate you sharing your story. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time. Listen, all of us have difficulties that we have to deal with. Make the relationship more important than the issue. We'll be back on Better Relationships. Let's head over to the Q&A corner. This is a question from George from Illinois. How should I manage myself on social media? I don't want to do too much. I don't want to do too little because I am a Christian. Wow, George, this one comes up all the time. Your social media profile is not just about dating and romance and the like. Your social media profile also has an effect on employment. It has an effect on if you're trying to get into school. Everybody's looking at social media profiles. So be very, very careful what you put out there. But also you don't want to seem in the dating process, you don't want to seem desperate on social media. You know how people put all those little veiled things that are just really begging for somebody to hit their DMs. You don't want to do that. Make sure that you put yourself out there the way you want. But here's also, make sure that every now and then you scrub your pages, because who you were 2 years ago is not who you are now. And you don't want people who are just meeting you now seeing the person that you were 2 years ago. So just manage your social media in a way that's fun, that's honorable, that has integrity, but also project the real image that you want to project. I hope that helps. Welcome back to Better Relationships. We've been talking about the challenges and the rewards of parenting young adults. I try not to give a whole lot of direct advice, but if you are parenting a young adult, I want to give you some direct advice today. You are going to have to make some adjustments. We were raised that the parents are always right. The parents do what they're supposed to do. It's my way or the highway. But the reality is now, this is a different breed of young person. And I'm not saying do away with your standards. I am not saying become your child's friend. Remain your child's parent, but recognize for the good of the relationship and for the good of the development of your child, we parents may have to make some adjustments. So whatever your relationship is, do what's necessary for the future of your relationship, because the relationship is always more important than the issue. My name is Derek Triplett. This is Better Relationships, and it gets better from here. My work is not possible without the support of a tremendous family. We are not a perfect family. We have our scars and our stains. But being a triplet is a great honor to me, and I take pride in it. I want to thank my wife, my children, my parents, and my brother and sisters for their support and their encouragement. I also have some close friends who really want to see me win. I want to thank them for helping to keep me going. Without them, I couldn't be here for you.